You got 300 users after the hackathon, right?
Yeah.
Did you imagine you will reach 50,000 plus in a few months?
Before we launched in February, we started working with the Grok team from a cold outreach, and that's when we got invited, I believe in the second week of February, to go in person. So that's when all three of us flew in and met there for the first time.
It is so beautiful. Just look at this. First, it gives me images with examples, 4 examples, and then another image for another Newton's law. And then in the end, it gives me a video. So basically, you're passing that easy to understand information that you get from Llama and then passing it to Claude to create visuals out of it, which is like 3 blue, 1 brown. And then you fine tune it further because it's a Python script that Claude gives you. You fine tune it further to make it, animations in Python.
Yeah.
Wow. So hello everyone. Today we have 19 and 20-year-old young YC accepted founders who just raised 800K from A4 Ventures and revolutionizing the way we learn, and especially with the platform called Opennote. It's an amazing platform. I tried for visuals for my videos as well. For example, 3 brown, 1 blue, right? Is that 3 blue, 1 brown channel? It creates visuals for teaching mathematics and all those visuals to make it easy for students out there in 100 plus countries. It can happen with just a prompt. It is fascinating. People can learn with visuals, videos, which are AI generated for mathematics, physics, chemistry, name any concept. They make it easier for you to understand, especially with the chat interface. Founders of Opennote are creating future of learning. If ChatGPT released its study mode yesterday with a couple of bullet points explained about, let's say, topic like encoder versus decoder models and few examples and an image in the end. While Opennote gives you not just images, not just in-depth learnings to learn from, quizzes, but also a video where you can learn and customize it and use as a creator or learn from it with audio. Look at this.
Imagine you're learning a new language. There are 2.
We have Abhi, the backend guy, Rishi, the AI guy, and Vedant, the leader and business leader guy. First of all, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Abhi. I'm a second-year exited student from UC Irvine who was studying computer science and engineering and math.
Hey, I'm Rishi. I'm also a second-year computer science and math student at UC Irvine, and one of the co-founders at Opennote.
Hi, I'm a third-year software engineering student at the University of Guelph.
So first of all, I want to learn about you all. When did you start to learn to code to finally ending up solving, one of the fundamental problem that students face? Like, even if through ChatGPT, if I want to learn a concept, it will take me some time to ask ChatGPT over and over again that explain me with examples, explain me with further examples. But you guys handle in one prompt. I gave one prompt. It gave me, first of all, images of the concept and then later video of the concept. It is fascinating. So when did you learn to code and what's the hardest problem you all have solved so far?
Yeah, for me, I learned to code, or I kind of knew coding in general, but I really tried coding apps in 11th grade of high school. And then I think the hardest problem that we've solved so far entirely would be the video generation system.
Oh, wow.
Especially because we built it at a hackathon originally, and staying up all night to figure out how we can have AI generate those and render those, especially in the early days of all these LLM APIs, was really difficult to figure out.
Yeah, especially this project is also from a hackathon, right?
Yeah.
From a hackathon, you guys, created a full-fledged project. You got 300 users after the hackathon, right?
Yeah.
And then did you imagine you will reach 50,000 plus in a few months?
To be honest, every single day is a little bit more surprising for us.
Really?
To us, we're still just regular students, just building something to solve a problem we've lived our lives with. And so it's super cool every day. We get feedback, we get emails, we get DMs, people have tried our product, hey, this is cool, this is actually useful for me. And so it's kind of surreal in a way. But yeah, even back then, especially even 300 sounded amazing. And so now it's even cool.
Wow. So what's the hardest problem you've solved when you need to learn to code?
Yeah, similar to Abhi, I kind of learned how to code in junior year of high school, closer to COVID time. But it wasn't really production sort of software until I guess maybe freshman year of college, where we did a lot more hackathons together and we kind of learned how to build software that actually served a purpose beyond a to-do list or something. And so kind of learning more system design stuff and learning not only how to build a product, but how to market it and actually solve a problem that is out there. That was something kind of picked up in like freshman year of college, and so thankfully it kind of carried on through Opennote, and now that's super cool.
Amazing. And how about you?
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned my name, but I'm Vedant. And yeah, for me, I think even throughout high school, like I guess I learned how to code initially, but when it came to university, the gap was so big that I essentially didn't really learn much. And so it was just relearning. And I think the first time I ever pushed code to production was maybe in my internship. I don't think I ever did it throughout like university or any concepts themselves. And so I think, yeah, the first time I ever did it was maybe like 8 months after starting college.
Wow. So basically, like the hardest problem you guys have solved is Opennote for all of you.
Yeah.
So you guys had done smaller projects, but coming to a hackathon, you guys unintentionally or intentionally solved one of the biggest problems for all the students out there. So let's get started with your journey of building Opennote. So how did it happen in a hackathon of 48 hours or 36 hours?
36.
Yeah.
36. Yeah, 36 hours. And this was at UCLA's hackathon, LA Hacks. So I think the biggest thing was like, we were really thinking hard about like what the idea should be. And we kept like thinking, oh, after the hackathon, we have like school projects that we need to get back to and like catch up on work. We're wasting a weekend on like going to the hackathon. And then we realized that, okay, well, at the hackathon, why don't we build something that could help us? And I know Rishi can touch more on this as well. But one thing that we had noticed is there's a lot of like these AI apps that were coming out. And this was like right when GPT 4.0 was released was when we built it. And we realized that, okay, coding is getting better and all of these AI apps are coming out. Let's make something like that would change how we experience learning. And we remembered 3 Blue 1 Brown while scrolling YouTube and studying for our own like tests. And that's how the idea came about.
Excellent. Yeah. How about?
Yeah, I think the coolest part about Opennote is it really started as like a super low scale, just like solving a problem we saw every day with our own lives. And it didn't really start as like some grandiose vision of like, I want to change education. I want to make something better for everyone in the world. It was just like, hey, we have some assignments to do. Like, I don't understand what I'm doing. Like, let me make something in this good chance of like 36 hours, like something that'll help me.
Yeah.
And so thankfully from there, like picked up like in demos, like people loved it. Like it sounded like it would add value to them. And so from there, it kind of compounded and like maybe there should be a vision attached to this, like maybe there's a bigger impact to be had, and so that was like super cool to see.
So you guys were going to hackathons for a long time. Was this your first hackathon together?
Yeah, third one. So Rishi and I, we met in like our first week of college in our discrete math class. And then the hackathon at UC Irvine was the first one we did together. And we got lucky. We ended up winning like first place overall. And that was the first hackathon we'd both ever done. Yeah. And this was our first time like ever doing like web development at like this scale. And then we went to another one here in San Francisco. And then LA Hacks was number 3.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How about you? How did you all three meet?
Yeah, so for me, my journey was a little different. I know that they initially started from a hackathon, but for me, it was, I used to commute a lot. And for me, the overall commute going back and forth from school was 3 hours. And so there was a lot of time in between where I just, couldn't do as much work. Maybe the data was not the best or there was no real network. And so for me, I was just hacking away at trying to build tools to make things a little more productive for me as well. I think that I never set out with, I'm going to change the game in education or anything for that matter. It was more just hacking away at things that could just make me more productive. And then it was around the same time when I saw them kind of talk about their own hackathon win and how Opennote was coming to life. And I thought that, the idea really resonated with, issues internally that I was just facing throughout my commute and kind of issues just sitting in a classroom and not really grasping everything that I was learning. And so I sent them a message, they replied. I think when we got on the call, there was a lot of kind of back and forth and a lot of things that we were just aligning on in terms of the mission and
Twitter or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn. And so from like going from messages to getting on calls and actually discussing about longer term, where do we see like this going from like a project to potentially a business. I think that a lot of our mission aligned and the people who we were building for, which is us in a way as students as well, really, really aligned. And we're like, why don't we just work on this together? And so that's where it kind of formed starting last summer. And yeah, we've been working together ever since.
So you guys first time met at the UCLA hackathon?
No, actually. So at the hackathon, it was me and Rishi, and then we met Vedant in person for the first time, in San Francisco, presenting at Grok with a Q's headquarters.
Yeah.
So you guys were pitching or like some other project with Grok?
Yeah, and that was actually the MVP of Opennote that we were pitching.
Oh, so you had the concept. You both had the concept in mind, pitching to Grok. You guys took it forward at the hackathon, met him there. Was
I can explain the order a little more. Yeah. So the MVP, and we started like ideating and working a lot over things over the last summer, and then we initially started building this out in December of last year. Yeah. And then before we launched in February, we started working with the Grok team from a cold outreach, and that's when we got invited. I believe in the second week of February to go in person. So that's when all three of us flew in and met there for the first time, and then all three of us pitched Opennote as like the very basic, like, you know, we're just getting started. And then one of the engineers there, I believe, posted about us on Twitter, and that blew up a lot. And then that's when we first started getting investor interest. And then from then onwards, from that pitch, is when we first kind of showed Opennote to like the investor world, I guess. And then we got a lot of people, and, you know, even before my flight, there were investors literally reaching out to us saying that, like, you know, we want to invest in you guys. Are you guys raising? And I think it was the first time for all three of us where we started off as like something we just wanted to change for students, not knowing that investors may be interested, especially building in a space like education where, you know, especially with AI, education isn't as much of a touch space as like a lot of other things. And so I think that when we first got those messages, the first thing we did was get on a call and say, holy, like, you know, we're getting investors who want to pay us to like build this out even further. And I think that, yeah, from like the first call we ever took to the final one to close the round, I think it was a mix of, you know, all three of us getting on a call, deciding, is this the right person we want to back us? What do they offer? And, you know, getting on calls with them. I think it was the first time, and it was just super natural for all three of us to just talk about what we were building, because we were at the core of, you know, student focus, students building for students. And so it was a super natural process. But yeah, if you guys wanted to touch a little more.
And even for like the building the MVP, like before Grok, it was basically like I was finishing an internship, Rishi was finishing school, Vedant was as well. And we were all going into winter break in December 2024. And Rishi was going back home to Singapore. I was traveling to India to visit family, and Vedant was back home in Toronto. And we are like, okay, let's go all in. So between like 10,000 miles apart and like time zones apart, we'd be like hopping on Google Meet calls at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., like just doing code every free second we get. And then when we all came back to like the US and Vedant was still back home in Toronto, that's when we really went all in on like, we're going to push this out there to as many people as possible. And so in late January, right before Grok, we filmed a YouTube video in Rishi's dorm's kitchen that we didn't expect anything of it. So we didn't even check YouTube for like a week after it was posted. And we realized we went to the database one day and we're like, why is there 1,000 users? And we go to the video and we see it's up like at 50,000 views. And from then on, for at least the next like 4 weeks, we were gaining like 10 to 15,000 users a week and just like climbing.
Wow, that's how I got to know about you. And talking about trust, why wouldn't investors trust you? Like average age for YC batch is 18 to 20, 23, 26 like me. It's so old for them. and not just that, they want motivated, you know, founders like you who are solving problems, not just for yourself, but for people out there. Here, founders are dying to give you free housing, free co-working place. I found a free co-working place too. It's just fascinating.
What Abhi mentioned about like how we were like over winter break, like working in 3 different countries. Like I think coming to now, fast forward like months later, after we've like built Opennote a lot more, gotten a lot of feedback, obviously great growth. It's like now we sit 3 feet away from each other now. And so I think now we kind of keep in mind, like even when we're facing like the toughest challenges, like on a day-to-day basis and like a week-to-week basis, like we're always confident, like as a team, like we're gonna make it through it. Like all we have to do is sit down and talk about it. We're gonna like build whatever we need to. We're gonna talk to whoever we need to get it done. Just because we've been able to build the very early stage before we had the growth, before we had any of the attention from investors, the funding, that we just had a goal in mind, and we were like thought through everything, all the barriers with distance and everything to get it done. And so I think that's like it's really helped us like mentally like get through like tougher times here. But yeah. Super cool to build so far.
So cool. I mean, you guys have a great camaraderie. I can see the friendship, because this should feel like your second home, and it does feel like. So can you share like, how's college going then? Have you dropped out? Is it a gap year? How does it work?
Yeah, we're calling it indefinite leave. At the moment. It's really a gap year at the moment, but obviously we're here for the next year in San Francisco to really build out the company, and so wherever it goes in here, we'll reevaluate then. But yeah, for now it's a gap year.
Excellent. Now I want to talk about like building to actually getting funded. Like YC is a far-fetched dream for many people. They struggle like applying 7 to 10 times to actually get in. You guys got it accepted to YC in your first attempt?
Second attempt.
Yeah.
Second attempt. So first you got funded by A4 Ventures around 800K, and then YC.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can, I guess, break that down a little bit more. So Ford Capital was the one that led our round, but we also had a couple of other investors, both VCs and angel investors who joined. So this round we closed like right around the start of April. And then during that round as well, we also applied to YC for the spring batch, which is the first time that they were running it this year.
Independently both.
Yeah, the X25 batch, which was completely independent. And for that, we actually did get an interview for the first time of applying as well. So, we were super excited, had a great time in the interview, but I think that they actually had nothing negative to say about us when we did get that rejection email. I think it was because their main reason was we were still in school. They're like, we want you guys to finish school and then come. We do want you guys as a part of the batch. It's just, it might not be the right time because of school. And so we reapplied. Because we were given a guaranteed interview for this new batch. And then, when we joined, or when we had this interview, we also got to meet some new partners that were a part of, this coming batch as well. And then we got in. So summer is technically our second batch or the second attempt. But yeah, really excited to be here.
So like, did you specify you are in a gap year or left college to, make sure you get in, or like you guys still were students from YC point of view?
No, so I think when we actually got in, I was out of school because I'm on a semester system, but I know Rishi and Abhi were still in school because of the quarterly system.
So they still consider.
So when we got that final call, I think one of the biggest questions was, are you guys taking a leave from school? Are you guys out of school now? Because YC, suggests that you guys at least spend 1 year on the company, and most companies go even further, right? And so I think for all of us, summertime was coming right up. We're like, this might be the perfect time to start that and just take things forward. And so all of us confidently are like, yes, we're ready to kind of take everything. And then they're like, okay, you're in.
So all the VCs out there want you to be all in, whether it was
exactly
for Capital or YC. They wanted you to be all in, and you were this time.
Exactly.
Exactly. I think that even before we joined YC as well, when we raised our pre-seed round, I think all three of us were already ready from then on as well. And we knew that, almost all of our investors are based out of the Bay Area. The ecosystem is just so strong here and it's been strong for several years. And so even talking to other people, making sure that, hey, if we're taking a leave out of school, will there be a support system here? Yeah. And everyone that we talked to said the same thing. They're like, if you want to build, SF is the place. And so I think that even before, at the end of April, when we closed our round, we're ready to take this. And then when we got the YC as well, we're like, this is just perfect. Everything just plays together. And then luckily we were able to find a spot that's only 2 blocks from YC as well. So everything just kind of played out well for us.
I really want to get into the technical details because this year is not just this year, even the last year is the year of vibe coding. Yeah. So how did you code? Was it a vibe coded project with limited coding knowledge, or you guys were thorough with your fundamentals? Did you build it like calling Cursor or Claude, fix everything, or did you actually know the basics?
Yeah. So for starting off, I think even up until mid-March, we used VS Code and GitHub Copilot when we needed to. So it was very, very much we were building at the fundamental level, and the app was built at, the most just building out, following guides, following Stack Overflow, everything there. Now we've incorporated AI, especially Claude Code and other tools into our workflow, mostly because it's efficiency for when you're already shipping production to so many users, and then you have to have features coming out every so often, and the entire team's still just us. You need to rely on some tools to help you out where they can, but we still are pretty thorough in checking over everything that we accept, and anything that gets pushed to production is tested.
Yeah. Interesting. So you guys were thorough with the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And it's not a vibe coded project.
No, not from the start at all. No.
Yeah, I think it's been I'm actually thankful that from an early point we actually just went on the first principles, actually coded it out for the most part, just because you'd be surprised for an edtech startup, the systems you built are pretty technically complex. There's a lot of thought and intention we put into system design to kind of create the best pedagogically aware AI we can that actually feels like a different experience. Yeah. And so I'm glad that from an early point we thought really deeply about how to build these systems, as opposed to kind of just winging it and figuring out these vibe coding apps. And that kind of enabled us to, I guess, have more power enabled by these agents now, because we have the system design really down. And so now everything we use agents for, and the automation is really pinpoint, just fix this one thing here. Mm-hmm. And I know exactly if it goes wrong, I can go fix it myself. So it's Abhi mentioned simply an efficiency thing now. Yeah. And I'm thankful that from an early point we figured out the fundamentals really well.
Yeah. Brilliant. Want to add on?
Yeah, I guess I can add on a little bit. I'm not the one that really does much of the coding. These two are the ones that lead that development. But I think from being able to work with them as well, I think it's really clear to see that there's almost nothing vibe coded. And frankly, like, we thought that we weren't being as efficient when we started just because, a lot of teams were shipping way faster. But I think, like, the truth comes out longer term when, like, the sustainability comes in with this growth as well. I think that, initially when we launched, there were a lot of, like, smaller issues that came up, but there was nothing devastating to the point where it actually, like, destroyed the platform. And so, I mean, I'm glad that we took the approach of, like, building very, like, foundationally first.
Yeah.
And then only now have we incorporated those tools to really boost that, like, speed to production.
100%. Now let's get into the details. Like, AI systems are not very complex to build at the moment, but every single detail is important to make it efficient. There is a lot of, talks about systems these days. Like, for example, if you want to talk two agents together, there's a A2A model by Google. There are MCPs out there. MCP is basically USB-C to, if, like, let's say I'm Claude, I connect with Google Docs, Google Calendar, or maybe Notion, collect all the data together, MCP there. And Grok, what they have talked about, it's the fastest inference out there, which supports young YC startups and give them the best deal. So, that's why not everyone can afford NVIDIA, and Grok for the time, for the cost and speed, it's the best for young startups out there. So I want to know the system from the ground up. So what I see, the system you made, it's Feynman. How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, Feynman.
Feynman.
Yeah.
So Feynman is their own AI agentic workflow or AI system they have created. So when I type a prompt, let's say today itself, I typed a prompt that I want to understand Newton's first, second, and third law. It is so beautiful. Just look at this. First, it gives me images with examples, 4 examples, and then another image for another Newton's law. And then in the end, it gives me a video. Here we go. There's a video out there which is just like 3 blue, 1 brown. It is fantastic. So I want to know the basics. I don't get to know what models are being used. I see the thinking process. I see that you're using the search first and then synthesizing 15 sources. So can you break it down how it's working?
Yeah, for sure. So starting off, we kind of have like the main like executor of the entire system. So that's the thing that kind of drives basically what kind of interactive content is being built, what's being delivered to the user in a variety of ways. And then for reason
LLM as an executor?
Yeah, LLM as an executor.
What Claude?
Yeah, so for example, the one that you're showing is based off of Claude, and then other ones are based off of fine-tuned Llama models. And then hopefully sometime in the future, we'll be able to build our own entirely from scratch.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. So first you have a fine-tuned Claude model.
No,
prompt engineered.
Prompt engineered Claude model, and then the like base Feynman is fine-tuned Llama based
model. Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you decide Llama over Claude?
Yeah, so I think especially for Deep Tutor, which is like our deep research agent for education, we wanted something that's a bit larger. Like it's going to take more time, but it's going to be a bit more thorough versus Feynman that needs to grab all the sources and put something together and deliver you content in a much faster way. So Claude was our choice as a larger, more like context aware model for those large tasks. And then the fine-tuned models were something to build in that like fundamental of like educational awareness into whatever the user is getting on the platform.
Can you give example? What examples you saw differently with Llama and Claude that you guys were inclined towards Llama?
Yeah, sure. So I think especially with these larger models that come out of AI labs, the biggest thing is that they're always inclined towards giving you the answer. And so what we're really trying to do with our AI systems is have systems that basically teach you and instruct you over time and then deliver you the answer. So prompt engineering was something that worked at like the base level, but was very easy to work around and start to get answers out of. So our goal instead was to build something that would be much more like educationally aware and feel like a teacher, and that's where the fine-tuning came into play.
Excellent. Yeah. Let's break it down even further. So we have first the Llama. Let's say Llama breaks down the concept, breaking down into text that is easier to use. Then there's an image gen, probably OpenAI's image gen model going on.
Exactly.
I could tell. Yeah. So then there is, and then number 3 is the video. Yeah. So OpenAI image seems straightforward, but you guys have prompt engineered to have the right prompt, so it delivers the beautiful image. But what about the video out there? How do you make the video?
Yeah, the video has been kind of like like the biggest work in progress of the entire platform so far. It started off as kind of just like a one shot, like at the very early hackathon stages, a one shot, like throw it into Claude, throw it into GPT, and like get a response, and then focus on compiling it and delivering it back to the user. But now it's kind of like with all the fine tune, like we've realized that these models are like sometimes inaccurate, sometimes they're not educationally aware enough to like really teach you. And so we have all these like sort of smaller Llama fine-tuned models for pedagogically aware content, accurate content, kind of filtering information that gets passed into our agent that actually builds the code for the video. And then it gets sent back and compiled. So there's actually, for the video pipeline, there's a lot of like filtration steps for information before the code even gets generated, that kind of make sure that the content's not only accurate, but it's like actually going to help teaching the student. Because I think earlier on, at the MVP stage at the hackathon, people kind of noticed that the content and the novelty of the video and the fact that it was a video was cool, but some of the information was inaccurate, or like the content wasn't like pinpoint enough to really help them practically. And so we focused a lot on the sort of information layer of it, and then kind of working on the code generation layer as well, through our own sort of custom prompts.
So basically, you're passing that easy to understand information that you get from Llama and then passing it to Claude to create visuals out of it, which is like 3 blue, 1 brown. And then you fine tune it further because it's a Python script that Claude gives you. You fine tune it further to make it, animations in Python.
Yeah.
Wow. So you make those beautiful animations in Python and finally deliver it.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
So how hard is it? Like,
Yeah, I think the video pipeline goes all the way back to like the hackathon, where basically it was like 2 a.m. and it was like 5 hours before submission, and we were both like on the verge of like a breakdown because we had no idea what we were doing. And then we slowly started like figuring things out, and we read so much Stack Overflow that night. But basically by the time that submission came around, we were able to get those videos on a consistent basis. And the hackathon was a good learning experience for us because it taught us everything we needed to know to build the current version of the pipeline, which is now we have like multiple layers of each step, and each section of the video is like in separate areas. We're able to vectorize the video for retrieval later on. So it's all just like building around that main core of like getting code and generating the video.
Interesting. And to connect everything together, like what's the hardest part of building AI agent right now? Is it the connectors? Is it using the LLM and prompt engineering it? Is it getting the right context? Is it fine tuning, or is it, overall everything in the system? What is the hardest part in building this AI agent?
I think the biggest thing is like context and then observing what it's actually doing. So first of all, giving it all the right information and making sure they're getting passed around, making sure it's reliable with what it's doing, and then actually seeing what it's doing. So being able to show the users that, hey, we're at this percentage of like loading time, and this is how much is left, or we hit an error here, here's how we can fix it. Like showing a user about it has been kind of a big thing for user experience as well.
Yeah, I think similar to what Abhi's saying, like there's the blessing and I guess the curse of AI agents is that they have a lot of like autonomy and agency. And so the blessing of that is that they're so powerful, they can kind of do so many things by themselves. But the issue is when you're trying to really like build tools like on a more consistent basis, you need to build it and like design it in a thoughtful enough way to where there's guardrails and it does the things right and consistently, and kind of doesn't limit the possibilities of what you can create with the agents, but it's consistent when you need it to be. And so we've had to put a lot of thought into that. And again, having it be observable, like Abhi mentioned, so that not only on our end, we can kind of observe what it's doing in development and kind of making sure when we're building it, it's clear, but to the user, especially on an education platform, and you have all these different complex agents and systems, you need to kind of key the student into what's actually happening. I think that's a lot of the magic of the platform, and people kind of see that stuff's being generated in front of them.
Yeah. You want to add on what's the hardest part being a leader?
Yeah, no, I think that like, especially for me, when I spend a lot of my time talking to a lot of these students and users, I think that whenever we sit down and think about the design, it's like, it's pretty clear in our head, but then how do we show it in a way that like, the student understands? I think that the students' minds are pretty like hard to like crack at, I think, because like, sometimes you're maybe showing a little too much of the process versus sometimes you're not showing enough and they want to see more. And so I think that, when DeepSeek came out for the first time, I think that deep reasoning step was something completely novel. But I think it was a lot for students, right? No one wanted to really go through every single step. I think they liked to see the reasoning that was happening, but at a much higher level. And so every system that we design is very technically built out and like planned out. But then when it comes to the student, I think that, talking to students every single day, and as students ourselves, I think we start to notice as well that maybe, turn off the technical mind for a second and think about the student. That, for us, like we are the QA, we're the ones who are testing this every single day. And so I think that, we think about it a lot when it comes to what do we really need to show the student that gets them enough, but then also make sure that they can trust that what we're giving them isn't any fluff, because hallucinations are a big issue as well.
100%. So most difficult part is actually having a consistent answer for a concept. It shouldn't be like one time if you ask for Pythagoras theorem, it gives better answer and then worse answer. Making thorough from top to bottom. Prompt engineering, because it's at the end of the day, it's a probabilistic model. Next time you ask the question with few tweaks, it can give a completely different answer, hallucinate, because it works on probability.
Yeah.
So fine tuning it that the probability of highest answer in every single step, whether it's Llama, Claude, or OpenAI's image generation with accurate text out there, it's beautiful and consistent. So that's the biggest most difficult part. And for connectors, I'm curious, is it, Llama index, what connectors you use, or OpenAI's open source, agent framework?
Actually, it's just Python. It's entirely we don't use libraries like LangChain connectors or anything. Our entire system is raw, Python code running everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Our entire backend is one massive Python server.
Oh, wow. So, okay. So if someone out there wants to challenge you and make a better system, what would you tell them?
I think
Good luck.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is owning the scale of the platform, and the biggest thing as well is we make videos, we have web search, we have reasoning agents, we have a whole platform around it and interactive tools. There's all these companies that work in their own verticals, and I think what brings us uniqueness is that we integrate them all in such a way that they're so catered towards students that it'd be incredibly difficult for anyone to compare what they build in that all-encompassing ecosystem way. For example, with Feynman and the web search results you get, that's our own search database, similar to how Perplexity does things. So we have that and we own that entire part of it, and we control how that works. Similar to the video system, we control the entire generation pipeline, and then we control all of our backends. So for us, it's we own basically almost every single part of the app that we can that isn't genuine hosting of the platform.
Wow. So to control and so that the model doesn't hallucinate, you have contextualized all the mathematical chemistry, physics fundamentals in one place in your own database. Is it your own RAG system?
Exactly, yeah. It's our own retrieval system with student documents, their profile, their context, as well as web searches that happen on the platform are cached at a global level. So students get sources, for example, from other students that were searched previously, and that makes everything a bit more efficient and distributed, and they can also search for new sources using Feynman.
How do you curate that data?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing has been really keeping it accurate towards academic sources. So the search systems that we use prioritize academic papers, research papers, etc. And Rishi, if you have anything to add on that.
It's really just coming back to the point of the biggest challenge of AI tools and education is that they need to be useful in an engaging way, and they need to be accurate. And so the accuracy has definitely been a big focus for us, and a big reason why we do some fine tuning and even think about the fundamental infrastructure layer so much is because the big models out there have this problem too. And so how can we create a system that, again, with these agents reliably queries the right information, we store the right information, and everything's really efficient? And like Vedant was mentioning, the student doesn't know too much about it. They don't care to know. And so juggling all these different parts is definitely tough, but it's probably one of the highest priorities for us, just because we know as students, there's nothing more infuriating than maybe trying on a tool and you get the wrong information, and worst of all, you don't even know it's the wrong information.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we want to eliminate as much as we can with these systems we build.
Yeah.
So it's taking a lot of thought and effort. Yeah.
Excellent. So what is the future we can hope for Opennote? How it's going to get better and compete with the incumbents?
Yeah, I think we're pretty confident now we can build these AI systems that are educationally aware and querying the right data and are engaging. It's now thinking about the user experience and thinking about fundamentally talking to students, what are the flows they have for querying a chat bot, putting it into their notes, what does that look like for them, and where do they store information, and kind of doing the best we can to make Opennote the platform they go to for everything they need to, when it comes to learning about something from the very starting point to mastering it in the end with practice problems and information retrieval. And so kind of thinking about the fundamental student experience and what tools we can build and the experience we can build that kind of caters to them the most. I think that's just kind of the biggest focus from now on.
What's the brutally honest failure you have encountered while building Opennote, and how did you bounce back?
So maybe something collectively as well, I think that we've discussed is the data and tracking of the data. I think that the first time when, Opennote went really viral, we didn't have analytics and things set up the way we should have. And at the deeper level that we could really understand why we're going viral and viral like over and over. And so I think that, having set up those analytics, we missed a lot of the biggest reason, the biggest trend. And like now that, we've spoken to a lot of these companies having things like Posthog and a lot of these other companies to be able to track these analytics. Now that we can really see every step of like the actual human behavior and human interaction, I think that's something that we maybe, really wish that we had initially before we even launched, because that would have just helped us capture the larger kind of trend that we saw, because it was almost like direct hockey stick growth at that first start. And we just didn't have the data set the way we should have. And so I think that's something that maybe, was the biggest, I guess, failure, that like we just didn't have it set at a deep enough level to really be able to track all of those insights early on.
So add-on Posthog, by the way, does evaluation so that you can understand what customers are going through. Yeah. And it also does evaluation. It also does evaluations of LLM. We call it evals. So for example, if you want LLMs to test LLMs so that they're thorough. Yeah. So how is that system built up? You want to add on? Anyone wants?
Yeah, sure. So for LLM evals, we've kind of built like our own system that we've been slowly working on, as well as we work a lot with Meta's team for the Llama API. So they have an eval system that we've been beta testing for them. And those two have been the main like forefronts of how we evaluate anything that we put out from the natural language point.
Yeah. So basically evaluations are important. The earlier you start, the better you can take your model. What is the biggest aha moment you have felt in this journey? Is it now or is it...
I think, like I said earlier on, I think every day kind of has some combination of these moments where it's like we still kind of think of ourselves, especially as like a small 3-person team, like we're just students, like trying to solve a problem we had. And so it's like every day we're like more and more surprised that like other people have the same problem, that our tool actually fixes that for them. And so another part of that is that you'd be really surprised like how important the UX is for students. It's tough to keep them on a platform, especially like when they have so many AI tools at their disposal. And so I think every day we kind of learn something new about each individual student we talk to, how their experience is, what their sort of workflow is for school, and kind of taking that and translating that into how we develop the platform.
What's the wildest way or, the smartest way students have used your platform and you guys felt that, oh, we could deliver the value we ever wanted to?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was going from like the practice problem system to what we have now with quizzes. So we saw students like kind of using their entire space as like starting learning a topic, and through the history of the space, they end up with like building a really solid understanding of it. So once we like talked to our community, and we have a Discord server and everything for that, we kind of found out that students want more dedicated practice on the platform. So we launched basically profiles and memory tracking, which Feynman is now able to track how a student is doing in a topic, and any time that they say something or do something or solve a problem that that might change their understanding or might help them improve, we update their progress and we give them more practice problems at a higher level. So now we're able to generate practice problems in a much more interactive way, kind of like how the SAT would do it, where you have a graph and then a multiple choice problem around it, or you can ask about those problems directly in the same space, and everything is like in one same ecosystem for any student on Opennote to use.
Fantastic. So like you guys are not just giving examples and learn one concept and leave Opennote. You're making it like, instead of user going out there asking you and thinking of a prompt, create a Quizlet for me, create, flashcards for me. You guys have a system to grade them.
Yeah, exactly. So we built like a evaluation where it can like percentage score you.
Can you just...
So if we can go into here, and here we were talking about Newton's laws. So I can say, make me a quiz on Newton's laws. And so now it'll take a minute or two, but it's actually going to go through and build that quiz for you. And then once it's done, we'll be able to take a look at it.
So this is the coolest feature, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think outside of videos, this is like the second most like interactive thing that we've built.
Yeah, and I think something to add to it, which was I think another aha moment for at least me as well, was the first campus ambassador call that I think I had, and when I asked them to like show me how they've been using Opennote, I think it was the first time where I saw someone tag multiple tools in a actual chat. And that's when we saw that all of these different responses could be combined and displayed to show kind of like a workflow. And again, this was something that we didn't initially think about where, instead of using these tools to maybe generate a quiz, then the next prompt would be to generate a video, someone would actually request 4 things at once. And it was the first time where I saw that and I thought that, this is actually something super interesting. I think someone's actually taking it a step further, just trying it out and saying that instead of having one-off, generations, why don't I just generate multiple things, right? Create a flow saying that, if I have a problem I'm stuck on, maybe I can generate a video, then I want it to maybe create some practice problems so I can learn further or apply that learning once I watched that video. And so it was the first time where I saw someone explore something that even I don't think any of us had tested at the time as well. And then ever since then, we've really been, working towards the direction of allowing students to really customize things as well. I think with a lot of these profiles now that we're being able to understand how students use it, letting them customize their own flows and then adding in a lot of the social aspects as well. So, if they're having a good learning experience, why not share it with their friends and others as well? So now everything that we develop is moving towards, you can share this with the Opennote community. I think we can also show Video Vault as well, which is our own kind of open source, I guess, version of YouTube, where every video that's created by an Opennote user goes to that space so someone else can look at it. And, if it teaches them the same thing they were stuck on, they can use that, bring it to their own space, and then now work further on that as well.
At least for a free profile, you get the choice to pick between a couple of videos that are recommended for you. And then once they load in, for example, we can show you this one. They're completely randomized based on someone was doing history, and then I think we have one on graphs of quadratic functions. So for example, this one would go through and basically graph out the entire math of everything here. And yeah, there's a couple other videos that we can that you can see on the platform. You can also see ones that have been paywalled. So for example, this one on electric fields is something that if you had a premium account, then we could watch similar videos.
Okay, so let's see the quiz now. I'm gonna go to
Open it back up. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, so these are brilliant questions.
Yeah.
So if I get them wrong, let's say, how do you help the user? If you can add videos for that, that would be so cool.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, you can click show explanation, and that would actually explain entirely in detail how the problem was solved and why you got what you got wrong and everything. And you can also ask in the chat. So for example, you can say, can you explain problem 1? I think that was. I can also type it out.
It'll just type in.
Okay. Yeah. Can you explain problem 1? So as you can see here, it basically explained to you how to solve problem 1 if you got it wrong and how to walk through everything. And then, yeah, you can go through the other problems, for example. So they'll all have some kind of interactive content associated with them. And then if you find a free response question, it might be later down, which would be something that had an essay. Okay, this one was mostly multiple choice based, but other questions that get free response would be ones that they basically evaluate you with a percentage and tell you where you can improve your writing as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is fantastic. Yeah. Now, what is the number one advice you would give to the youngsters out there who are in the same shoes? They want to solve problems. Sometimes they accidentally solve a problem and want to become big like you. You want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just say just try stuff. Yeah. I can't say from the beginning or even for most of our journey so far that I could have envisioned that we'd be solving a problem at this scale, even continue to grow. And so I think don't go into it assuming or putting the guardrails on yourself to say oh, I'm only going to try something if it has a huge impact. If it solves a problem for you at the very least, that's worth building. And even if it doesn't scale into something massive, it still will teach you something in the process that then when you get to that problem that you're solving for maybe hundreds of millions of people, that lessons can be carried on to that. And so I think just get one foot out of the door and just really just try stuff. When you're doing hackathons, that's the only way we learned web development. And now we get to build our own company. And so things kind of they kind of cascade over time. And so just try stuff. Reduce the barrier of entry for yourself and just have fun with it. I think it's super expensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think something to add or branch off of that as well is, stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? I think that for all of us, talking to users as we build was never something that came too naturally, just because in school you're really working on your own assignments and things for yourself. And now that we're building for even other students as well, I think that as much or as many ideas that we can have that we can throw on a whiteboard, I think everything really comes to life when we talk to more students. So I think that for any kind of, project or anything that you take on as well, always talking to people is, a great insight, even if they might not be your direct customer as well. I think getting insights from people is always something that's super important, regardless of, their age or occupation. And so I think that, yeah, just talking to different people, I think as you build as well, always getting another set of eyes on it can't hurt. And so, yeah, being able to step outside of your comfort zone and really being able to communicate is, I think, is really important.
Yeah, 100%. Like as YC teaches you, getting as close to the customer is fundamentally important.
Yeah,
it changes. Like evals is an example you shared.
Yeah.
How about you? What lesson?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, at least from, I guess, a technical perspective, would be like, we did a lot of things because we didn't expect scale, but there's always like, especially at the earliest stage, you should be doing things that don't scale, and you should be talking to every single person using the app. But also do keep in mind that there's like a chance that like everything goes viral like it did for us. And then basically it's a lot easier to like realize what you've done wrong at a smaller scale and fix it when you're relaxed, rather than scrambling to fix everything breaking when there's 50 bug reports coming in later on. So that's something that's a bit harder to expect and like know when you're actually going to be at that point. But try and set yourself up for success with like making the right decisions and learning as you go iteratively on the product, rather than like saying, oh, I'm just going to do the most like vibe coded thing now and I'll figure out what's going to happen in a few months.
So know every single part of your tech stack, every single part of the problem. You should be thorough with every single part of your code base.
Exactly. I mean, if you ask me or Rishi, we could probably point out the exact line that drives every single thing in Opennote. So that's like, that type of knowing something is like, if there's a bug, we know exactly how to fix it.
Yeah. And one advice I would like to add on is like, use AI MCPs as much as possible. Don't, like, for example, like, I created just for fun with MCPs, I created with one search and one integration with Google Calendar and Outlook. One line of statement can help me find thousands of YC founders, rank them, and draft an email, and I approve it. It's just so useful.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you so much, Abhi, Rishi, and Vedant, for having me. It was a pleasure. I hope this video adds a lot of value to the youngsters out there.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking the time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.